Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bad Blind Moms.
We're two moms doing our best, and we are definitely getting it wrong today. I know I am.
Well, today we have two lovely badass blind mom guests who you know and love. We have Priscilla Yeung from Sacramento, California, and Lisa Johnson from Omaha, Nebraska. Ladies, why don't you introduce yourselves briefly? Priscilla?
Hi, everybody. My name is Priscilla, and I'm from Sacramento, and I have two kids. Miriam is age 13, and Isaiah is 11, and I currently work at the Society for the Blind.
Excellent. Lisa?
I'm Lisa. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and I have 7 kids, 5 girls, 2 boys, ages 15, 13, 11, 9, 8, 6, and 4. And I work full-time as a student support services director for Nebraska Methodist College.
And in case you're tuning in for the first time, I'm Stacy Cervenka, and I live in Omaha, Nebraska with my husband, who is also blind, and our 2 kids, who are Leo, who is 7, and Josephine, who is 3.
And I am in, where am I again? Right, Urbandale, Iowa. This is the day it's been today. And I live here. We live in Urbandale. Ross and I live in Urbandale. We are both blind parents, and we have a 8-year-old boy and a almost 4-year-old little son.
So as the election season is behind us and we find ourselves moving into the holiday season, we thought it would be fun to talk about some of the experiences that we as blind parents have with our kids and with our families during the holidays. So how did you guys handle Halloween with your family and your kids?
Well, for me, since we weren't going around trick-or-treating this year, we just bagged up a whole bunch of candy and made these giant bags and walked around our neighborhood and delivered them to the kids in our neighborhood ourselves. Just, left at the doorstep. So the kids got to do like reverse trick-or-treating, and then we actually decorated our car, and my husband just drove it around the neighborhood with all this like loud music, and we said candy coming, and those are the kids, we dressed up as ghosts. And I had my ghost, with a white sheet and, my sunglasses and my cane, just walking around. So we kind of did that, and they really liked it. It was like a new thing for us.
So what did you guys
pandemic?
Yeah. I mean, and it's been a tough time because everyone has to decide what's best for them and what, what makes sense for their family and where you are in the country and what things are like for you locally and what situation your family's in. So it's, what did you guys do, Lisa?
We didn't go out. And so instead I tried to find some things to keep our kids busy all day long. So we did some cookie baking and decorating. And then we did this engineering challenge sort of with toothpicks and marshmallows. And the kids tried to build the tallest tower they could out of marshmallows and toothpicks. And so they really enjoyed that. And then we did a candy scavenger hunt in our yard. So I went out and put candy all over. And then the kids went out and just ran all over the place and found candy. And then we ordered pizza, and they ate pizza on our trampoline. And then we ended the night with a Halloween movie and a sleepover in the living room. So we
tried to keep it
really full. We watched The Witches.
Nice. And I thought it was really cool the way that some people did find ways to distribute candy safely. There was one couple that had their bonfire pit out in the middle of their driveway, and so they were out in the open air. They were wearing masks. They had this cool bonfire set up. So it was neat. And then there was another house that had a giant spider, and it said, I've laid all these eggs all over the yard, take 2. So the kids could go in the yard and take 2 spider eggs. That were
cute.
There were a lot of cool things. One thing that kind of is a transition that was interesting to me is I follow our local newspaper and our local TV station on Facebook. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, you know, if you have to make any modifications at all to Halloween, it's so sad for the kids. Like, give your kids a holiday. Don't make them wear masks. Don't do all these things. And I thought, you know what? In a way, as blind parents, all our holidays, like everything we do, we're kind of working under maybe not always the easiest conditions. And we could choose to throw up our hands and say, well, you know, we can't do things exactly the way that other people are doing them, so why even bother? But we find ways, you know, and that's kind of how it seemed to me. Like, there were parents who were like, oh, it's Halloween, like, don't make it sad for your kids. And we just thought, like, our kids don't feel sad wearing masks to go trick-or-treating. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It could be part of their costume.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Well, and I think, like you're saying, Stacy, as blind parents, we're so used to, in some capacity, modifying things, even when it comes to our family life. So I guess for me, it was like, oh, we just have to modify things to this way. I didn't necessarily see it as a negative.
Yeah,
my kids actually like loved it. And they said that they'd almost rather do it the way that we did it this year than the way we typically do it. They just had a great time, and they didn't have to like be out in, you know, it wasn't really cold, but they didn't have to be out in the cold. And two of our kids don't like costumes. And so it like, it actually was a more fun time for the kids. And they were like, they still are talking about it a week later. And in kid time, like a week of talking about how amazing, you know, our Halloween was, is like, you know, we clearly won, you know, with what we did this year.
And I thought this was one of our best Halloweens too. And I think it kind of, again, you could say, okay, we're just going to act like the pandemic's not going on and we're just going to do things in a super unsafe way. Or you could say, forget it. If it can't be exactly the way I want it to be, then I'm not participating. We're just not going to have Halloween this year. And I think it's similar to, as blind parents, we might, you know, there might be traditions from our childhood or traditions that we see other families doing that, you know, we may wish that we could do more easily, but we don't just give up and say, oh, forget it. If we can't have like this Christmas card holiday, you know, then we're just not gonna even try. And, you know, I think that sort of, to me, that Halloween kind of represented the problem solving and the ingenuity and resourcefulness that blind parents often, you know, bring to the holidays.
Agree.
I agree.
And I think as parents, I think we set the tone. So if we are going to be super negative, if we are going to be constantly ranting and raving about why we can't do things the way we've always done them, I mean, that's going to, you know, trickle down to our kids, and they're going to pick up on that. I mean, my kids also, I never once heard them say, well, why can't we do it the way we've always done it? I mean, it was like we were still doing things, you know, we were still participating in some way. And even if we hadn't actually gone, you know, around the neighborhood, I think the kids still would have been fine, because I mean, they were still getting treats and candy, and, you know, mom and dad were having fun. I mean, we dressed up because Ross has a full body wolf costume that he wears every year. And I have like fairy wings and a wand. So
nice.
So it's like we make a whole thing out of it. And it's like I know my kids were never once like, well, why do we have to do it this way? Why can't we do it the normal way? And I think that if we, and it's not always easy, it's not, but I think if we are the ones kind of setting that tone and just, you know what, maybe secretly it sort of sucks in my head, but you know what, for my kids, I'm just going to try and make the best of the situation. And then, you know, they usually pick up on that.
So now I know you guys, as blind parents, as we move into the holiday season, as we move into Thanksgiving and Christmas, what are some barriers that you found in the past, or things, maybe not barriers, but things that have come up in the past that have to do with your blindness, whether it's, you know, your kid participating in like a church pageant, a Christmas pageant, or a school assembly, or family and community activities? Have you guys had ever run into any barriers or ways that you had to do things differently, or needed to, you know, be ingenuitous and find ways around?
I think for me, my greatest barrier is generally myself and how I think about myself and what I feel overwhelms me. And so every year, our school puts on this giant like fall carnival, and every year I want to volunteer, and I try to find a place for myself to volunteer. And so I've tried different things, like being a runner from one station to another, using my cane and navigating, or maybe running a game booth, and trying to manage that. And I just found myself really stressed out. And I asked myself, what exactly am I stressed out about? And I think it was really the noise factor, and just not being able to hear really stressed me out. And so finally, the last 2 years, I decided to, take control and decide to volunteer for a certain station that I felt like I could be in control of versus being assigned to a station like I normally was. And so I picked up the prize booth. And so I was able to control the number of kids I was talking to and, figure out ways of handing them the right prizes. And I felt much better. So I learned a good lesson last year when we had the carnival.
Yeah, I'll say, it's really interesting because one thing that's so important to me during the holidays is for my kids to have fun and for my kids to have a wonderful, magical holiday season. And sometimes I feel like I have to put that desire ahead of my desire to be in control or to like worry about my image, how I'm presenting myself or myself as a blind person. Like I think a lot about how when my son, this year, probably not, but the church pageants, when Leo would do church pageants, I often felt like, okay, Leo would be involved. They loved having him there, but I would kind of just sit in the pews and just watch and, wasn't super involved. And there was this part of me that always feels like I should be involved. What am I showing them about blindness? I'm not involved. But then I've also thought I don't have to be involved in everything. Just because something's going on doesn't mean I need to be running it or I need to be involved in it. And if somebody in that group is thinking, oh, well, there's Stacy, she's not super involved. So what? If my kid is having a good time. And that's kind of been hard for me because I do want to be in the thick of things. That's my nature. But sometimes I have to realize it's less important for me to be involved in this Christmas play than it is for Leo, and
well, and I think that whole having to, the being in control, yes, for sure. I'm a bit of a control freak, but I think,
okay, is anyone on this call not a control freak?
Right. I think that as blind parents, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, the whole idea of being the blind ambassador. Everywhere I go, I have to show people that blind people are capable and we can do anything. And look at what we do. And it's like, you know what? This is about my family. It's like you said, Stacy, it's if my kids are having a good time, we're having a great family experience. I don't have to be the blind ambassador everywhere I go. I mean, look, there's a time and a place, but you know what? I just need to live my life. And if I right now don't want to be that person, that's okay. I mean, hello, I'm out with my kids, that alone should be good enough for people who want to get into that discussion. But, there've been times where we'll go to, a holiday activity that's really crowded and we've brought, a sighted family or friend to kind of help navigate things and figure out what station's this and, what should we do next? And, I don't know, maybe as a blind couple, Ross and I should be figuring that out on our own, but you know what? I don't care. We're doing it as a family and, we just want to make things as convenient and just however it works for us. And I think that if that's what works for you in that moment, okay. So yeah, I just think this idea that I know I do anyway, I can put a lot of pressure on myself. Am I presenting the best image of a blind mom? And, it's like, who cares? It's my kids are having a good time and that is what matters.
Well, it's the holiday for you too. So you need to be having a good time. And it's kind of ironic because during those plays, I actually have good memories. I have good memories of dropping Leo off at play practice and then walking over to Starbucks, getting myself a holiday Starbucks drink, and then sitting in the pew and sipping it and watching the kids go nuts. So like that actually is a really fond memory I have of like, okay, Leo's at practice. I'm going to get my pumpkin spice latte. Like I'm sitting there with it. Like instead of feeling left out, I actually feel like, God, that was fun.
Yeah, shout out Starbucks.
Like,
I would echo a lot of what's already been said, that I know for sure, same thing. Like I like to have control over things and know things are going to go like the way that I want them to. But that deciding that I sometimes have to put my discomfort, like I have to put myself in uncomfortable situations in order for the kids to enjoy the holidays is something that I feel like I do a lot. Like, and I guess we face the barrier also of like the fact that there's 2 parents and 7 kids. And my husband really truly is not like, does not enjoy school events at all. Like will do whatever he needs to get out of them. And so a lot of times I have to take on that parent in the classroom role, even though I really don't particularly enjoy it much. But, just that deciding that you're going to just put yourself in uncomfortable situations. I've had to do that a lot because I know like the kids are like, can you please be can you please come to school? Can you please be there for our party in our classroom or whatever? So I think that's one thing. And then the second thing we face is that at the holiday season, there's so much to do. There's so many activities that you could choose. And if we went to every single thing that every one of our kids wanted to participate in, like it wouldn't be possible. And so we do have to like put our prioritize and put limits on what is going to, bring us the most joy, what's going to be the most convenient sometimes. So, a lot of times it comes down to each kid choosing like the thing that's going to be the most important to them. And that's the thing we do. We try to make sure we're doing one thing at least for each kid, but we can't do like 20 things for each kid because like 20 times 7 kids is like impossible.
So besides the pressure we put on ourselves during the holidays, have you guys had any other barriers to participation, whether they come from, technology or just finding out about activities or not really?
I think transportation's a really big one. And I think especially like depending on where you live, obviously, if you don't have great public transit, that could impact things. And I know like when we lived in Omaha, and Lisa can attest to this, Omaha is geographically very big. It's kind of a sprawling city and its surrounding areas. And so like around the holidays, there's all these activities that happen in Omaha and the surrounding areas, just everywhere. And there's like a million things to do every single weekend. And I know like when we were in Omaha for Ross and I, sometimes we had to like map it out and determine, okay, is this, how can we get there? How far away is it? Some places it's like, do we really want to spend $50 on an Uber, just for this one activity? And so, I know for us, transportation sometimes played a really big role in what we did and where we went. And we've talked about this before, the transporting of all the stuff you have to when neither of you drive. So not only, okay, now we figured out how to get there, but now we have to take the car seats, we have to take the bags, we have to, we can't take our coats off unless we're going to carry them. And so sometimes it's those logistical things that I know for us, and it's not just the holidays, but particularly at the holidays, that sometimes haven't stopped us from doing things, but definitely we have to think really hard. Is this an activity worth doing because of all those extra things? Or maybe we're just gonna chill at home in our PJs tonight and figure out something else to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think to kind of piggyback on that is not being able to drive means I have to plan ahead a little bit better. So if I want to bake holiday cookies with my kids, if I'm missing something, I just can't run to the store and pick it up, right? Or if I wait too long to figure out a certain present I want to get my kids or somebody, I'm not going to be able to just jump in my car and drive. So just being able to plan ahead and doing all that brain work behind it, I think sometimes can be overwhelming.
I will say, I think that like grocery store delivery, you know, whether it's Postmates or whether it's, you know, our Hy-Vee delivers, that does help, because especially a lot of places now have same day delivery. So you don't have to plan quite as much as we used to. But you're right, it's so frustrating when it's like, okay, I want to make cookies, but I don't have flour or some small thing that would be, you know, easy to jump in your car and get. But now, so how are the holidays going to look different for you guys, Priscilla and Lisa, due to the COVID pandemic?
Well, I think previously I've been really stressed out about my in-laws coming over and her family coming over, and having to just be a really good host with a clean house. And if it's not great or perfect, I'm always worried that they're going to judge me because I can't see. And now the pandemic has come, and so I'm not sure if I have to host anymore.
Yay!
Get together. So I don't know if that really solved my problem, but for this year,
For sure.
That is a silver lining.
yes.
Yeah.
Not having to host stuff.
I shared that similar experience. Normally we host my husband's department. He works for a university here in Omaha, and normally we host the department Christmas party at our house. And so everybody has already been like contacting us and telling us they're super bummed, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's just really sad.
What a shame.
But I don't have to. I mean, we'll probably do all the baking anyway, because our kids will still eat all of that stuff, but it's not the same level of stress that goes into the cleaning and the prepping and all of that. So that's one way that ours will be different, is no hosting, but in a like a sadder way. Normally we travel to Wisconsin to see our family.
Right.
And that won't be happening. We're not traveling. My family has canceled Christmas because right now they're kind of living, like several of them have COVID right now, and they're definitely not wanting to welcome, you know, us bringing, risking us bringing something or us getting something and bringing it back here. So we won't be having the travel that we normally do.
And that's very hard. I mean, like Lisa, my husband and I, you know, neither of us grew up in Nebraska, and our families live in different states. And it's kind of hard during the holidays because we're not going home, we're not having guests, and we didn't grow up here. So we don't have like local relatives, like, okay, we're going to locally go to grandma's house, or, you know, it's a little harder. And then a lot of the holiday traditions and things that mark the holidays, even when you're not around your family, like the Christmas, you know, the school Christmas play or the church pageant, you know, those aren't happening this year either. So it's like, it really stinks, because even like the kids aren't even getting like their usual school and church and some of the community things. But we also don't live near grandma or near the cousins and aunts and uncles. So, I mean, we're really trying to be creative and find ways to make it feel special and make it feel like the holidays. So I'll let you know what we come up with.
So we've already kind of started that. So we're trying to think of ways to make it like, really try to make the holidays merry in whatever way we can. And so we actually put up our Christmas decorations already this week.
Yes.
And
one of those.
One of those. Yeah.
You set the bar high.
Yeah. So my husband was on the roof yesterday. I mean, I have to applaud him for that. So we're trying to make it really, really special. Even thinking ahead to Thanksgiving, we're already talking to our kids like, okay, well, we really have free reign over what Thanksgiving dinner is going to look like this year. So like everybody gets to pick a dish. And I mean, it might be a different looking Thanksgiving when there's, you know, all of us getting to choose our favorite to be on the table. But you know, it's just a matter of being willing to be adaptable and creative this year. So,
I mean, I really do. It really hit me when there were so many people saying things like, "Oh, you know, don't make Halloween sad for your kid. let them just do it normally. And I thought, like, man, you know, just because you're doing it differently doesn't mean it has to be bad. I mean, in times of war, in times of difficulty, families have always had to adjust. I mean, holidays happen whether you're in a good place or a bad place. You know, I mean, they happened during World War II, they happened during the Depression, and it's like there's always life circumstances, and you make the holidays happy. And that can be very hard sometimes, very hard. But, you know, I think as parents, like, I think all of us are that way. Like, we really want our kids, like, we want our kids to have that magic, even if we ourselves might not be experiencing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say it's because of the pandemic that we're doing Christmas early, but for me, it's like November 1st, decorations up, Christmas music on. Like, it's just, we start watching. I've been watching holiday movies on Netflix. Like, I think I'm probably part elf at this point. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, just doing those things, which, I mean, for us, you know, works out now that mom's always been like that. But since, you know, we're not going to be able to do one big thing that we've done with the kids, is, since, you know, Ross and I don't drive, is we have always gone on one of those holiday lights tours, and that's not going to happen this year. So, and now, you know, we don't even live nearby really anybody we know. So I don't really know if we're going to be able to do much like holiday light watching, unless we kind of walk around the neighborhood, which we have done, by the way. We will do that if it's a nice night. We'll just take the kids out in the wagon and walk around, look at holiday lights, but you know, in our neighborhood. But that, I know, is one big thing that the kids might be a little disappointed in. And we also will not be traveling for either my family or Ross's family. We're just going to do our own Thanksgiving and Christmas, because I just, you know, we'd have, again, none of us drive, so we'd probably have to take like a bus, and I'm not real comfortable. Like, flying's one thing, but the bus is a whole other situation right now.
So it is Saturday night, and my husband and I, our standing dates is we lie in bed and fall asleep to Saturday Night Live together, usually like after Weekend Update, sometime between like Weekend Update and the second musical performance. But since that we're really wild and crazy over here. Yes. Super fun. So I thought, why don't we go around and each share maybe one tip that we have for other blind parents during the holiday season. And if you want, I'm happy to go first while you guys think of yours. Mine is that I know that especially during this time of year, or during, you know, this Christmas, finances can be tight for a lot of people, because a lot of people, you know, may have lost their jobs or been downsized or had their hours cut due to the pandemic. And frankly, you know, among people who are blind, you know, a lot of our community lives, you know, at or near poverty. And I guess what I would recommend is, you know, I think about the toys that our kids love the most, and they are Play-Doh and markers and crayons and chalk. And, you know, your 4-year-old doesn't know that, you know, some new robot costs more than art supplies. You know what I mean? So like, don't worry about the cost of things. Like, I truly think, like, our kids, the best gifts you can get them are like bubbles and Play-Doh, and again, you know, construction paper, glitter, glue sticks, you know. So just, if finances are tight this year, don't sweat it. Kids don't, again, half the time they're just as happy with bubbles as they are with some expensive thing that you get them and they play with it once. I guess that would be mine. Priscilla?
For me, I think my advice to myself and to anybody else for this coming season is, you know, and maybe this sounds a little cliche, but I really want to embrace this, is that I think memories are made when I'm present with my family, and I don't need to be perfect, and we don't need a lot of stuff, and maybe the traditions can't come through this year, but just find new ways of being present with each other. It could be something simple like hot cocoa, together on a couch, playing a board game, to watching a movie. Just keep it simple.
Totally. Lisa?
I think mine is something that maybe it's developed out of my need because of having so many kids, and it's sort of a practical thing. So one issue that I've had is like, we don't get our kids a lot of stuff, but when I'm buying things here and there over the period of a while, usually, I kind of think Christmas all year long so that the November, December doesn't get to be such a financial strain, is keeping track of the things that I've gotten over time, and then knowing what I've gotten for each kid. And so I have an app that I keep track of what I've gotten for kids. And then in like a secret place in our house, I have like a spot for the gifts per each kid, and I keep them separate so that I know what goes with what kid. And so that I try to make it look like everybody is even. I mean, that's maybe only an issue in my house with 7 kids and everybody looking at like who's got the most and blah, 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 whatever. But this is my way of like, keeping track of what I've gotten, doing it all year long, and then keeping it in a place so that I'm not scrambling the night before, trying to find everything and remembering what I got who and where it is.
Yeah, it's always good to ban your kids from your closet too,
Uh-huh.
and establish that all year long so that it's not creepy when you do that at Christmas. And oh my God, it just hit me. I don't know if you guys do that horrible Elf on the Shelf thing, but that is coming up, and I every year I make it shorter. Like it used to be like right after Thanksgiving, and then it was like December 1st, and then it was like maybe December 10th, and now I'm like, okay, it's gonna be the week before Christmas. Like,
yeah.
What's the Elf on the Shelf thing?
Oh God.
Oh, you don't want to know.
Yeah, no.
No.
It's this tradition now where you get this stuffed elf and you put it like, it's from Santa. It's from the North Pole. Santa sends it to you, a scout elf, to look at your kids to see if they're being good, if they're on the nice. And then every night it flies to the North Pole and tells Santa how the kids have been. So and then like every morning the kids find it in a new place. So like maybe it's on top of the Christmas tree. Maybe it's in the garbage disposal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's our elf if you have any, if you're able to see.
The worst. Like it is a universal Elf on the Shelf parent thing. You are snuggling into bed. It is 10 p.m. You're nodding off, and then you're like, shit.
You're like,
I gotta move the
I gotta move that elf.
Yes, there have been plenty of times where we forgot to do like, whatever. He just
the elf liked that.
He liked that perch. He liked that perch. He wanted to stay there again.
I make it probably for my big kids. My big kids.
Okay, smart.
It's so much easier.
See, Lisa, you're so type A, and you do such a good job with this. I wouldn't be surprised if you're like, well, you see, I have a chart, and I make all these little arts and crafts where my elf shows up. And
well, Greg and I here on this night. It can't be here now.
I know. Well, Greg and I are just like
started out
sleepwalking around the house at 10:15. Like, where the fuck are we going to be?
Yeah, like when you were talking, Lisa, about like, oh, you keep a list, and I'm like, oh, so do I. And then you're like, I use an app. I'm like, oh, I just have like a
note on my phone.
That's amazing.
I'm not that tech savvy.
It's developed out of necessity and many nights of scrambling last minute. Sure. So I wouldn't say it's out of being smart. It's out of making mistakes and needing to survive.
Well, Bridgit, do you have a tip you'd like to share with our virtual mom squad?
This might sort of be in the vein of what Priscilla was saying, but you always hear people talk about, oh, their family traditions. And, growing up, my family, honestly, we really have traditions. There weren't, beyond your normal, putting up decorations, the Christmas tree thing. We didn't really have family traditions. So I didn't grow up with that. I know when I had kids, I really wanted to create that. And I'm so into the holidays. I wanted, I don't know, for a couple of years, I'm like, we have to do this, we have to do this. And Ross is like, calm down. like it just calmed down. But I don't know, like we're not all going to be able to go rent the cabin in the woods and we go cut down our 20-foot tree. And, I think just those traditions can be whatever you and your family agree upon, and, things that you kind of like, and just bring you together as a family. If that's, I know for us, so like a thing that we like to do is on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, we usually get pizza, we watch Christmas movies all day, and that's when we kind of put up the bulk of our decorations. And I don't know, it's simple, but it's just kind of what, like Ross and I started doing it when we were first married, and then when we had kids, we just kept doing it. And so it's so basic, it's so simple. I also shop, but but I don't know, I just think it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be extravagant. The traditions that you create with your family can be very simple and very small, but I think it's just creating that sense of togetherness, and just something that you do together as a family is really all that matters. It could be a snowball fight in the backyard if you live in a place with snow. So, whatever you want it to be is what your traditions can be.
And it can be different each year. Like maybe your tradition really is doing the Christmas tree, and maybe sometimes that's going to the tree farm or going to a tree lot or going wherever. And maybe sometimes it's going to the grocery store where they have cut down trees. You know how they, at a lot of grocery stores, they have like live trees, like right by the front door you can buy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So some years it might be this really special, wonderful thing, but I mean, you get the tree, you can still decorate it. It can still be fun. It might not be the, trip out to the farm that you're used to, but
yeah.
Well, we want to wish all of you, our virtual mom squad, a very happy holiday. And we hope that you will comment below on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're seeing this, and that you will share with us some ways that you are spending your holiday and some traditions you have and some experiences you've had. And so from all of us to all of you, have a wonderful holiday.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.